You can start.
Okay. On the first anniversary of the death of Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi, the first democratically elected civilian president in the history of Egypt, this statement is made by the international legal team for the family. Firstly, on this day last year and at this time, the people of Egypt and people around the world received news of the tragic death of President Mohamed Morsi in an Egyptian courtroom, a building that is ordinarily the domain for truth, justice and accountability, but which has, after the unlawful military coup of the 3rd of July 2013, been used as a tool of repression, the circumvention of the rule of law, an arbitrary and unlawful institution that contravenes the basic and fundamental provisions of the Egyptian constitution. It is with deep concern that the judiciary and the organs of justice have been hijacked by the military regime in Egypt to target the political opposition, to stop free speech, and to crush an otherwise peaceful opposition to their brutal rule. These courts hid the president behind a soundproof glass cage, violated his basic legal, civil liberties and constitutional rights, subjected him to a slow and painful death, prevented him from medical care and food. The withholding of such constitutes torture under international law. Prevented him from having visits from his family, interfered with his basic right to consult with his lawyers, and to present a defence to the arbitrary charges he faced. He was subjected to lengthy periods of incommunicado detention and held in conditions that are considered inhuman and degrading. His death was the natural consequence of the treatment that he had endured during a lengthy and cruel period of detention. Since his death was announced on the official news of the Egyptian state, violations of the rights of President Morsi continued even after his death. His legal team failed to receive the forensic report on the cause of his death. No independent inquiry, no formal and transparent investigation has been conducted into the circumstances of his death. He had complained that his life was in danger. As his legal team, we had requested UN intervention. The authorities blocked all attempts, seemingly intent on bringing about his untimely and tragic death. For that, there must be a process of justice. The family is entitled to know the truth of what happened, and they are entitled to see those responsible held accountable and punished according to the law. It is shameful that satisfied with causing his death through their acts and omissions, the authorities prevented his burial and funeral ceremonies in his hometown, as well as prevented prayers or the offerings of condolences. Secondly, according to the official report of the UN Special Rapporteur on extrajudicial summary or arbitrary executions, Dr. Agnes Kalama, along with a number of other UN special experts, revealed that the prison regime in Egypt may have directly led to the death of former President Morsi and may be placing the health and lives of thousands more prisoners at severe risk. The experts stated that Dr. Morsi was held in conditions that can only be described as brutal, particularly during the 5-year detention in the Tora prison complex, and that Dr. Morsi's death after enduring those conditions could amount to a state-sanctioned arbitrary killing. They went on to say, "We have received credible evidence from various sources that thousands more detainees across Egypt may be suffering gross violations of their human rights, many of whom may be at high risk of death. This appears to be a consistent, intentional practice by the current government of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to silent dissenters." Based on the condemnation of the report, the United Nations and states around the world should no longer advocate for this issue and should take steps to hold the Egyptian authorities accountable. It has become a pariah state. Thirdly, our legal team would like to announce that it has already begun to implement the will of the late Abdullah Morsi, the youngest son of the president, who was killed on September the 4th, 2019. less than 3 months after his father's tragic death, in circumstances that can only be described as mysterious, and faced the same procedures that his father was subjected to after his death. Abdullah had provided clear instructions in his name and that of his family to move forward with his father's case, to ensure that he receives the justice that he cannot receive in Egypt. He also instructed us to establish an international institution bearing the name of the former president that commemorates his memory and works to continue his method of peaceful struggle in support of democracy, justice, and human rights. Indeed, following his wishes, we have established in the United Kingdom the Morsi Foundation for Democracy that will serve to achieve those high aspirations. It will serve as an international civil society movement, a non-profit organisation that does not pursue any political agenda and includes those who believe in the values of freedom and democracy from all countries of the world. It will support everyone who fights corruption, tyranny, and occupation. This institution comes as a continuation of the approach that President Morsi lived and died by, which believes in democracy, freedom, and human rights. It will stick to his democratic path in facing and confronting corruption, tyranny, and military coups, and for the institution to be a platform for justice and peace across the globe for all peoples. The establishment of this international institution is intended to benefit the free world and people in various fields in light of the crucial phase of history in which people rise for independence, freedom, and dignity. The President was one of the products of this phase, which was called the Arab Spring. The Foundation extends its reach to all without any exclusion or discrimination in order to uphold those values and welcome those who loved justice, peace, and freedom. The family would also like me to say a few words from Abdullah, stated before his tragic death. I feel afraid and sense danger for our family, which has been oppressed since the dangerous military coup, not only for me, but also for my brother, Osama Morsi, the unjustly imprisoned lawyer because he is the son of the president. Children and women are at risk because they bear the name Morsi, which honours us all. Repression continues, and so does that political revenge against a family that does not practice politics. I do not know what hatred they carry for my father and for us. Just because he is against corruption and because he was democratically elected. I do not care about myself as much as the justice and freedom for this homeland that we love and learned to love from my father, President Morsi. There was no oppression or hostility between us and anyone. We respected the Egyptian people and the state institutions, yet the regime is trying to incite against us. My father died while saying, even if my people oppress me, they are noble. It saddened me that they have let us down, even though they know we were right. We were waiting and still are, and we are all hopeful that everyone will unite and leave the differences for the sake of our country and our free world. I would like everyone to know that if something bad happens to me or that I am arrested, that this will be the price of my attempt to reveal the truth about what happened to my father and what is happening to my beloved country, Egypt. Abdullah also provided the defence team with information concerning his father and the circumstances of his death, which will be revealed in the fullness of time. Finally, the legal team remains concerned about the rest of the family in Egypt, as Osama is still in detention and the family has not visited him or met him since he attended his brother Abdullah's secret burial. The rest of the family is also subject to political retaliation and repression. Therefore, we address formally and legally everyone to take responsibility, including the US administration, given that 2 children of the late president carry US citizenship, which means that 2 American families are subject to repression and danger. Our team and human rights organizations have informed the US administration formally to take responsibility. It is the duty of the authorities in Egypt to protect the family and assume its responsibility towards its citizens and do what is necessary to remove the Morsi family from this circle of political revenge. In the end, I would like to thank you all. In the end, thank you to all who showed their support and solidarity and engage today with the memory of the late Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi. Even if the family did not have the opportunity to establish his memory in these circumstances, but it is hoped that the next year will be a year of peace, justice and health, without pandemics and without disease, and with greater security for all peoples. Thank you.